How do you do? My name is Deems Taylor, and it's my very pleasant duty to welcome you here on behalf of Walt Disney, Leopold Stokowski, and all the other artists and musicians whose combined talents went into the creation of this new form of entertainment, Fantasia.
There are moments in Walt Disney's career when he didn't just push the boundaries of animation, he shattered them. Fantasia, released in 1940, is one of those moments. It wasn't simply a movie. It was an experiment, a symphony, a technological revolution, and in many ways, it was Walt's most daring attempt to elevate animation into fine art. The idea began modestly enough. Mickey Mouse, Walt's beloved alter ego, had been losing popularity. Walt wanted to give him a comeback, something grand, something unforgettable. He approached conductor Leopold Stokowski, one of the most famous and flamboyant maestros of the era, and together they developed the idea for a single short, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. But as often happens with Walt, he looked at the project and saw something bigger. Why stop at one short? Why not create an entire feature built around classical music, with animation and orchestra working together as equals? This was the birth of Fantasia. Walt assembled a team of artists, musicians, and technicians who were willing to attempt the impossible. The animators studied ballet, wildlife, mythology, and abstract art. Stokowski brought in the Philadelphia Orchestra, one of the finest in the world, and Walt, always the visionary, insisted that the film should not just be watched, it should be felt. That's where the drama begins, because to make audiences feel the music, Walt needed a sound system that didn't exist yet. So he and his engineers built one. To bring the music to life, Walt's engineers invented Fantasound, the world's first commercial stereophonic sound system. It used multiple audio channels, controlled by a pioneering device called the panpot, to move sound around the theater. Today, surround sound is standard, but in 1940, it was science fiction. Fantasound required special equipment, new wiring, and technicians trained to operate it. Only a handful of theaters in the country could handle the system. Walt insisted on roadshow engagements, reserved seating, higher ticket prices, and a prestige presentation. It was bold. It was brilliant. It was financially disastrous. Theaters couldn't afford the installation. The war in Europe cut off international markets, and the film's unconventional structure confused some audiences. Critics were divided. Some hailed it as a masterpiece. Others dismissed it as pretentious. I love the film today, but it does feel just a bit pretentious. But Walt didn't care about the critics. He believed in Fantasia with all his heart. He said, "Fantasia is timeless. It may run 10, 20, or 30 years. It may run after I'm gone. Fantasia will always be modern." He was right. The creation of Fantasia was a whirlwind of creativity and conflict. Walt pushed his artists harder than ever before. Some sequences, like the abstract opening set to Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, were unlike anything animation had attempted. Others, like The Rite of Spring, required scientific accuracy, so Walt brought in experts from the Carnegie Institution to advise on prehistoric life. The result was one of the earliest cinematic depictions of the Big Bang, the formation of Earth, and the extinction of the dinosaurs. But the ambition came with tension. Stokowski, known for his dramatic personality, often clashed with studio staff. He and Walt respected each other deeply, but both were used to being the final authority. One famous anecdote tells of Walt walking into a recording session and finding Stokowski conducting with the lights dimmed, arms raised like a magician. Walt whispered to a colleague, "He's putting on a show for the boys." But he admired Stokowski's passion, and Stokowski admired Walt's. After all, Walt himself was not above putting on a show for the boys. The film also featured narration by Deems Taylor, a well-known music critic of the time. His role was to guide audiences through the program, introducing each musical piece as if they were attending a live concert. Walt wanted the film to feel like a night at the Symphony, but with animation as the orchestra's visual partner. Fantasia is not a traditional narrative film. Instead, it unfolds like a concert, each segment interpreting a piece of classical music. The first of these is the Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach. The animation is an abstract exploration of color, light, and movement, wondrously representing sound and emotion. Next up is the Nutcracker Suite, composed by Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. Here we have fairies, flowers, mushrooms, and fish dancing rapturously through the seasons like a visual poem. Our third piece is the original inspiration for Fantasia, The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Paul Dukas. Mickey Mouse, in his greatest role, plays an apprentice who uses magic to avoid doing chores until the magic gets out of hand. It's the very heart of the film. Mickey is followed by Rite of Spring from Igor Stravinsky. This is a sweeping depiction of Earth's creation, the rise of life, and the extinction of the dinosaurs. Stravinsky himself disliked the adaptation, but audiences were mesmerized. I believe some small children might be frightened by aspects of this scene, so have a care. A short intermission follows, including the scene where we meet the soundtrack. It's a playful sequence where the soundtrack becomes a character, one of the film's most charming touches.
Suppose we hear and see the harp.
Sixth on our hit parade is the Pastoral Symphony, gloriously composed by Ludwig van Beethoven. Here we find a mythological world of centaurs, fauns, gods, and goddesses. It is colorful, romantic, and whimsical. It's tough to follow Beethoven, but Amica Ponchielli's Dance of the Hours is the perfect choice. It's a wonderfully comic ballet featuring ostriches, hippos, elephants, and crocodiles. It's loaded with pure Disney charm. I particularly love the grinning crocs. Finally, the film closes with two contending forces, A Night on Bald Mountain. Let's give a listen. This is followed straight on with Ave Maria. These works, composed by Modest Mussorgsky and Franz Schubert, respectively. This is the film's powerful and emotional climax. The demon Chernobog summons spirits in a truly terrifying display of power, which I'd recommend previewing before showing to small children. This is appropriately followed by the serene, spiritual procession of Ave Maria. Here's just the final notes of that amazing piece of music. Darkness and light, chaos and peace. This is one of the greatest sequences in animation history. It moves me to tears every time. Although Fantasia struggled financially in its early years, its legacy has grown into something monumental. It is now considered one of the most important films ever made, animated or otherwise. It influenced generations of filmmakers, animators, musicians, and sound engineers. Walt's vision of animation as a serious art form paved the way for everything from experimental animation to modern music videos. The film's bold use of color, movement, and abstraction inspired artists far beyond the world of cartoons, and Fantasound laid the groundwork for the immersive audio systems we take for granted today. But the greatest legacy of Fantasia is the way it captures Walt's spirit, his curiosity, his willingness to take risks, his belief that audiences young and old deserve beauty, wonder, and challenge. Fantasia is Walt at his most ambitious, his most artistic, his most audacious, and in the end, it stands as a reminder of what Walt Disney taught me, that art and imagination should have no limits. Thanks for watching and supporting Walt's wisdom. Please give us a thumbs up, leave us a suggestion, and consider subscribing. It's always free. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support.